Welcome to Undressing Intimacy, where we cut through the bullshit
Greggy,
so we can get naked.
you can't say that.
Why not? How would you say it then?
Well, maybe more like, welcome to Undressing Intimacy, where we undress emotionally so we can undress physically.
That's exactly what I said. Not sure what the problem is. Welcome to episode
19.
We are cruising right along.
Yes, sir.
Before we get started, we have a couple exciting things we want to talk about. First of all, I don't get it. You all need to pause this podcast right now and go to our website, langfordlifecoaching.com/Valentine's, and sign up for our workshop.
It's going to be a hands-on, informative, fun, like date night for 3 Fridays, where we'll help you work through some of the places you might be stuck so that you can create a little bit more love.
I guarantee you will come up with real life things that you can implement into your marriage right away that will help you be more passionate.
Yes, we really don't want to just talk at you. So that's why we created this as a workshop, so we can workshop together.
That's right. So again, pause, go sign up, and then rejoin us.
And when you do, we have another exciting announcement. Next week, we'll be having one of our favorite sex therapists, Dr. Jennifer Finlayson-Fife, with us recording a podcast, and you won't want to miss this. She has fabulous insights, fabulous wisdom, and really, I think, approaches the topic of intimacy and sexuality in marriage in some very unique and powerful ways.
She's a life changer. She has been so important to our lives and our marriage, and we are so excited. This is a little like fangirl moment for me.
Right, totally.
Getting her on the podcast. So I would love it if you join us in a couple weeks, and we'll have Jennifer on.
We have some other guests coming too, but we'll wait to announce those.
All right.
Adding in some variety, variety.
That's right.
The spice of intimacy.
That's right. All right. I am not sure I like this week's topic.
Sure,
and I'll
you do.
tell you why. Because all week long, Amy's been picking fights with me so that we could have topic to talk about. And I don't like it. Like, she's been picking on me. So
I have not.
You have too?
Have not.
Have too?
Have not.
If you haven't guessed yet, today we're going to talk about arguing.
We talked a little bit about repair and conflict meaning that there will naturally be differences in couples, right? And how that conflict is necessary, it's crucial. And we talked about, the framework of repair that Terry Real shares, which is, how do I recollect this event happened? What did I make it mean? Here's how I felt about it, and here's what would help me repair. But as I have been coaching all week, there's often topics that come up over and over and over again. And this topic came up over and over this past week. And what I noticed is most often we don't know what we're making something mean. We're a little bit blind to it. And so we actually want to go through how to understand what something might mean so that you can actually fight better or have so that you can
I told you she's been picking on me all week, fighting better.
So you can actually get to the repair. And I feel like that's pretty crucial.
Yeah, I think we hinted at this a little while ago too when we talked about keeping score. We needed to do a podcast on keeping score because really an important part of this is how do we stop doing this to keep score, who wins, who loses. It's not a win-lose situation. It's how do we move our relationship forward. And the interesting part, we talked about this before too, like if you're not having these kind of conflicts and these kind of conversations, you're probably not having an intimate relationship, because part of intimacy is so important that we want to belong to ourselves, but yet we want to make sure that we care about another person. So when you have that, there's going to be conflict, because there's going to be things that where you're like, okay, I want to belong to myself and I don't quite align with you on this. So if you're being quiet and not having conflict, then you're probably not in an intimate relationship either.
Right. And so intimacy does require us to address these conflicts. I will say it's helpful to try and do one at a time and not piled them all
Like
in.
Amy did all week.
And what I see is couples think that they're fighting about whether or not to spend or save, whether to have sex or not have sex, the frequency of sex, whether or not to parent a child this way or that way, whether or not to watch football on Saturdays or not watch football.
That's a yes. Watch football on Saturdays.
This was a huge conflict between us. Football was huge. I have seen conflicts over who closes the door, who drives the car.
Oh my gosh. Amy makes me lock the door. You want to get laid? Is the door locked? Well, yeah, you're just as close as you are. No, get out of bed. It's freezing cold out there. I don't care if you want to get, and she knows that I want to get laid. So look at that. She knows it. She makes me get out of bed every time.
I laid the trap for you. Whether or not to buy this or buy that, I've seen conflicts over who cleans out the kitty litter and who unloads the dishwasher or how you load the dishwasher or who does the laundry or does not do the laundry.
So are you trying to tell me that that's just all smoke and there's fire somewhere burning underneath that?
I am.
Well, let's get to the fire because I like hot things.
Let's do it. Okay. So I don't know if any of you have ever seen the video. I think it was put out like 10 years ago. And it's a wife coming to her husband and she has a nail very clearly in her forehead. And she comes to him saying, I'm just having a lot of headaches and pain. And I just feel this tightness and this, there's something going on.
There's a nail in your head, babe.
And he's like, there's a nail. And she's like, no, it's not about the nail. And I think this is sometimes where we get in our conflicts. We think we're fighting about spending, saving, frequency, to have sex, to not have sex, to put the kids to bed at this time or not that time, or to watch football or not watch football, or to load the dishwasher, but we're actually not.
You're killing us, babe. You're killing us. Let's get to the point. What are we fighting about? Come on, let's go.
We're fighting about 3 main things. And the first one is care and concern. Mm-hmm. Do you care about me? Are you concerned about your impact or the impact of this decision or choice or behavior?
Yep. Once again, like we've made a decision to be in this relationship, right? So if you're truly differentiated, then you're wanting to belong to yourself, but yet you want a lot to have this impact on others. So the question is always there. Do you really care about me?
Do you care about me? Do you value me? Do you value my opinion? The second thing we're fighting about is respect and recognition. Do you respect who I am? Do you respect my viewpoints? Do you respect my experience? Do you recognize my contributions, or do you recognize who I am? Do you see me? And the third one is power and control. What do I have power over? What do I have say in? What do I have control over? What control may I have given over to you? Who has the say? And am I powerless or do I have power?
Yeah. In a relationship, we're in a constant negotiation of these things, right?
Yes.
What does it look like for us? And even if you've solved them one time, you're going to go on, there's going to be something else, and you're going to have to continue to look into these deeply and understand if I am being vulnerable enough to hand over something to you, which means I care about you enough that I want you to influence me. I want to know that I'm being cared for, or that you care for me, mm-hmm. and that you respect me, mm-hmm. and that you want to be a partner instead of a victor.
Yes. And respect is like air. You don't even notice it when it's there. Everyone's just fine and they're enjoying it. But the minute it leaves, that's all the conversation is about. That's all anyone cares about. The minute there's no air, all you care about is breathing.
Yeah, I never thought that I was fighting about this, but when I look back, I definitely was. And I was really, really good at fighting, at arguing. In fact, I remember there was one point you're like, I'm not even going to argue because you always win.
And that was your goal.
And that was my goal, was to tick that win box. Like, I am right. And that was the problem. We've talked about that before, is keeping score. And I was an ultimate keeping scorer.
Scorekeeper?
No, keeping scores. There she goes, correcting me again. Yeah, I kept score. And the more I could put in the win column, the better I thought I felt about myself.
So let's talk about football for a minute.
Okay.
Let's go back. Let's lay the scene.
In the whole entire world.
Well, I thought you liked NASCAR too.
I do, but football
and horseback riding.
That's good, but it's not a sport.
Okay.
I mean, I guess it is, but not really.
Okay, so football. This was like one of our core fights that we had over and over and over and over and over and over. And if you're having a fight over and over and over, it's most likely because you haven't realized what you're actually fighting about yet. And we did not realize what we were actually fighting about. So my side of this argument was he gets to watch football Saturdays and Sundays, and I still have to take care of the kids, and I still have to run errands and do chores, and he gets to watch football and he gets to disappear and I don't. What was your side of the argument?
And my side of the argument is like, I work like hell all week, right? I bring in money and I support the family, and all I want is a couple hours on the weekend to be able to enjoy something. And why can't you just enjoy it? And then, by the way, if you want to, you're more than welcome to join me. And I would love to have you be with me. There's other wives that like football and they cheer for it and they want it. So, I mean, if you really loved me, then you would sit down next to me and watch it, and then we could be together. And this is just something to be able to relax and have some time by ourselves.
Yes. We had this argument over and over. He fought for time for himself and also kind of like dug it in a little deeper. Like, and if you were a good wife, you would sit down with me, because there are a lot of wives that enjoy you.
That's true.
And I was like, if you were a good husband, you would see that I've been with the kids all week long and all I want is a break, and football isn't the way that I take a break. And we went round
Why'd you bring the kids? They could have watched with us.
And round and round and round. And we had this fight over and over. And I would get pouty and angry. You would get pouty and angry. We would get silent. We would like do all the things that happen in marriages.
Mm-hmm.
And almost to the point that football was like a word that we could not say.
Football.
So,
unless I wanted to rile her up like she did all week to me this week.
We get to talk about this week, apparently.
I guess so.
Okay. Let's talk about meanings now. What was the meaning of your side of, I work all week, I just want to relax?
I think you could probably check the boxes on all three things we just talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably was looking for some respect, that you cared about me, and that I could have self-care and something I enjoyed.
So respect, care. What about power and control? Do you think that played in?
Absolutely, yeah.
Tell me how.
Well, again, it's a fight. When kids are young and you're raising a family, it's a fight for survival, right? Every hour is occupied because these little things don't go away. And I love my kids, by the way. If you're listening, kids, which you probably aren't because you're a little scared to listen to this podcast, so we're good there. But if anyone knows my kids, don't tell them I said that. But I love them very much and I enjoy them. But it is a fight when you have little kids running around. Every moment's occupied. And so you're fighting for every last minute of time for yourself.
Mm-hmm. And I think I was fighting for the same freedom that you seem to have. In my eyes, it seemed like you had the freedom and could just say, I'm going to go watch football, and didn't have to make all of these arrangements or logistics or like things to make sure everything else was going okay. You could just go watch football. And so I think I was really fighting for power and control.
Yeah. I think it fed into your overfunctioning too, because you literally could have taken time for yourself if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And so you made it, you told yourself you had to do all these things because everything would fall apart. But
so that's like in the respect and recognition, like, do you respect and recognize how much I provide? And if I did, then you would give me this time and you wouldn't take it.
Right. And you wouldn't give it to yourself because then, things would fall apart.
Right.
Quote unquote.
So we had this fight over and over and over, really, until I remember when I first started life coach school and I was launching into our own coaching business, and my first lead magnet, my first freebie was all about football. And it was like walking a couple through how to work through an argument or something. And I was doing it for us with football. And as I walked through it, I was like, oh, I see what I'm doing here.
I think something happened before that though.
Oh, we coached with...
No. So if you guys, we're going to have Jennifer on here next week. So there's this little podcast that Jennifer does called Room 42. And if you go and listen to it, you might be able to find a couple that sound similar to us because we were on Room for Two.
Yes, we were.
And this topic actually came up with Jennifer on Room for Two. And I think that's what finally started opening our eyes. I know later on you got to that and it was kind of like the aha moment, but it really was the crux of a lot of the stuff that we talked about in Room for Two.
Yeah, so sometimes you do need outside help to see what your meanings are. And I remember in that coaching, she called me out as being kind of selfish. And I was like, what? I'm so generous. And I think she called you out for not realizing the impact, like being toxic, like kind of like I can do what I want when I want, leave me alone.
Yeah. I mean, she definitely talked about, hey, there could be moments when you're doing this just to escape and it's not good and healthy. But she said, everyone needs time for themselves. And she literally told Amy, like, why wouldn't you just sit down and enjoy it? Or why wouldn't you, don't you love him enough that way to spend that time with him? It's what she called it. She talked about. But she did it in a way that wasn't like one-sided, like, Amy, you're wrong, Greg, you're right. That's what's great about Dr. Jennifer Finless and Fife. She always gets to kind of the root cause of it and help us start to unfold and see that there are things behind this argument that were more meaningful and showed that we needed to work in our marriage in different ways. I think we'd started the path down on being able to understand intimacy and what we wanted, and we'd started coaching on it, and we'd made a lot of progress in a lot of different areas. And this is just one sign to me. I came away with it like, oh, there's always constant work to be able to continue to have an intimate relationship. And we need to be able to step back and think about these things and what's really happening behind the scenes before we just go at battle around them.
Yeah. In that conversation, I learned that I needed to respect myself first and be generous to me so that I could be generous with you. Like I was expecting you to give me that, and that was creating a lot of resentment, and it was something that I could give to myself. And I was really judging you pretty harshly. And so I had to let go of the judgment. I had to see that what you were choosing was really respect for the work that you do, and that I could give myself the same respect.
Right.
What did you learn out of that?
I learned that got to be cautious, right? That I can look to escape certain places, and that's not good too, but it's okay to be able to take time for myself. But, and you had mentioned this and it kind of struck home. It's, 3 hours one weekend is one thing, watching one game. And, if I watch 2 or 3 games, it's 6-9 hours a weekend. So there is moderation in all things. And I think I took out of there to make sure that, it's okay to give myself time, but making sure that I'm also not
overindulging.
Yeah, overindulging to escape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when we got to more of the meanings, you could see that the more I pressed you, the more kind of overindulgent you came, because you were like, you don't respect me? Well, fine, let me show you.
How many football games are there? I can watch.
Yeah, well, you want to see how much football I can watch? Yeah. And I would go the other way and really kind of cut you off and withdraw and being like, you need to respect me. And really, we weren't respecting each other.
Yeah, I really think it goes down to understanding the core of what the behavior came from, right? Was I really doing it just to escape and not have to deal with things, or was I doing it because I enjoyed it? And I think there was a little bit of both, right? Mm-hmm. I know that I thought really hard about how much football I consumed, and I think I was more choosy about how much it was, and realized how much time I was spending on the weekends to make sure that I wasn't overindulging in that thing, but that also it could be okay. I could do something.
And I did try to join you more.
Yep.
And I actually love NASCAR more than football.
It's crazy. I don't get it. Like, I do not understand this. All these years trying to get her to watch football, and these silly cars go in circles, and she loves it. Like, so, I mean, I'm not complaining because I love it too, but it's a shocking moment that she ended up going to NASCAR.
I will happily say, watch your game. I'll join you for NASCAR. And sometimes I do join for football, but I really do enjoy NASCAR more. And
because you have a boyfriend in NASCAR.
I have a driver that I like.
Not my driver.
We have different drivers.
She just likes it because so she can cheer against me, I think.
And my driver's the better. Anyways, I digress. I also had to learn, and this was something I started adding into my calendar, unconnected from you, that I also needed space and time to breathe. And what was that going to look like for me? And not to expect you to give it to me, but to organize my day or my life or my week in a way that I could address those. And so that meant lunches with friends, walks with friends, setting up date nights. It meant time to read. And so as we got to more of the root meanings of what football fight was actually about, that's when I feel like collaboration started to happen.
Yeah, I even think back of it. It's kind of crazy because I really felt like there wasn't space to step in and maybe support you in supporting yourself because it was held against me, right? And so I would step back. It was that overfunctioning, underfunctioning part of it. Like
Yeah.
I allowed you to be a martyr a little bit around the things that you didn't have time for. And when you finally stepped up and said, I'm going to take care of myself and I'm going to set time for there, I think that it was really easy for me to step forward and say, okay, I'll take the kids, or I'll go do the dishes, or I'll do this so you can get away. And so we almost become our worst enemies to ourselves, right? Because we become so stuck in this rut of, I have to be right. Someone has to do this for me, that we often don't take care of ourselves. And when we can take care of ourselves and we can step into that, it allows those people around us that care for us most to be able to step up and support us. But, we don't want that because then they get rid of the martyrism. We can't be a victim anymore.
Mm-hmm. We do sometimes really like our victimhood and martyrdom. Sorry. We like our
Now you're making up
victimhood
words.
and martyrdom.
It's catchy.
It is catchy. Okay, babe, do you want to fight?
No. You came to me and said, let's practice a fight. I don't want to fight. I don't like fighting with you.
Do you want to have a conflict so we can walk our listeners through having a conflict?
Okay.
I'm thinking one of the most common conflicts is frequency.
Okay.
And I'm thinking that we can be a couple
We should have sex every day.
that you have made several offers to me. You're the higher desire. I'm the lower desire.
But what are we showing them how to do this correctly, or are we showing a bad example?
Let's do a mix of both.
Okay.
Because we're going to address it as we go along, and I'll kind of like stop us.
Okay.
Because we are human. So I don't know that any conversation ever had by anyone is actually perfect.
Speak for yourself.
Love this. Okay. So let's say that you have made several offers to me. I have rejected them. I've been tired, or I've ignored you, or kind of just pushed you away. And you're in the space of kind of withdrawn and pouty. You've tried to bring it up before. I've shut it down. Okay.
For our people that are listening, they won't hear much because I'm withdrawn and pouty.
Right. And I'm going to try and bring up a conversation with you.
Okay.
And you're kind of in a little bit of a testy spot.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm practicing my testy. It's cool.
All right. Hey, babe.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some things on my mind. Would it be okay to talk with you right now?
I'm busy.
You're busy right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a good time when you would be available?
Maybe later.
Okay. I really actually want to apologize.
Mm-hmm.
I have been pushing you away.
Yeah, you have.
I have.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't really known why.
It's not nice.
No, I can imagine that doesn't feel so great.
No, it feels awful.
And I kind of want to hear how that feels for you.
It doesn't feel good. So you just go do your thing because I know you're busy. You don't want to be with me anyway.
I actually want to figure out how to create more intimacy. And I think the answer lies between us.
Well, I keep on asking. I keep offering. I keep grabbing your boob and you get mad. So I don't know what you want. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, literally every night I've been asking.
Yeah.
And you haven't wanted it. So I'm just done asking.
I can see that.
You know how much it hurts to be rejected like that? Like when you grab my boob, I don't get upset.
Here's my pause. My pause is often when you have a really difficult conversation, often there has been some attempt at having this conversation. And so often one spouse or the other is actually pretty fed up. And they don't feel safe entering into that conversation. They don't feel respected. They don't feel like they can actually say because what they want to say because they've tried and there hasn't been understanding. So in the beginning, the first thing in a really difficult conversation you want to establish is safety, a mutual goal. I want something more than just my agenda here. Like, be clear about your motive. That's why I was saying, I see that I've been a part of this and you've been a part of this, and I think both of us want better. Like establishing a mutual ground. I see that I have pushed you away and that has been hurtful.
How do you get there though? Because that's not how you would have addressed me before. Like we would have had this fight about sex. So from this perspective we talked about, you've come to a place where you've come to understanding that there's more meaning, but that's the hard part, right? So just pretending like it happened doesn't help our listeners here. How would you get yourself there? Like, how would you stop telling yourself over and over again, he's just picky, he doesn't understand me, he just wants time? There's so many things that you told yourself over and over again about this very situation. Mm-hmm. So there's no way that you got yourself to that place anytime soon. So before we go on with this conversation, let's talk about how would you go about getting your head in that space so that you could have this conversation?
I actually think it is usually confronting yourself, like radically honest. Like, what is it when I'm pushing him away that I'm trying to get? I'm trying to get some sense of power, control over myself. What is happening when I do that? It's hurting him. What is going on between us? There's got to be something more. There's a desire not to be right. Like, where am I trying to win? I keep trying to win by pushing you away, but where is there space to actually find a mutual ground? Find that there's going to be, often when we're in fight mode, there's only like two options. You get sex or I don't, right? And so it's like opening up that there's probably other options out there. There's probably other ways to collaborate where there's mutual wins, but in this binary conversation where either you win and get sex or I lose and have to give it, there is no win for either of us.
Right. And I think the important thing of what you just talked about is really stopping the thought process of I need to win this and that I potentially am the victim here. And if I don't, then I've told this to myself and I've had my clients tell me, like, if I go about it that way, then I lose. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that you talked about, I think that's so important, is having the curiosity, being open and honest with yourself enough to say, what part do I play in this? Because no matter what conversation we're having, no matter what argument you're having, you play a part in it.
You do.
There's something there that you have tried to do. One of the three things we talked about earlier, you tried to get back control. You tried to find respect, whatever those three things are that you're trying to get. And so you're trying to manipulate the situation in your behalf so that it's better for you.
Yeah.
So no matter what conversation we're having, an argument with you, the first thing is to say, what am I doing here that is trying to get something for me?
Right. And it's that radical honesty, that confrontation, which sometimes comes through journaling, meeting with a coach, talking with a friend, a wiser other or person or resource. Like sometimes you are kind of blind to yourself and you do have to go get some of that. Reading a book, watching a relationship course, listening to a podcast. Sometimes those kind of shake things up enough to be like, oh, something else might be going on here.
Yep. And then at that point, wanting the truth to be more important than a victory, right?
Right. More important than being right.
What is the facts and honest truth about this than what am I trying to manipulate out of the situation?
If I go in saying, I just want you to leave me alone, that's a very different conversation.
Right. And it's not true because you don't want me to leave you alone.
No, I want to feel close. I want to feel connected. I want to feel cared for.
Right.
But I am misunderstanding what you're giving.
Right.
And offering.
And in this situation, it's most likely that we're trying to lean into the same thing, but we come at it with such different perspectives because that's where we are. We're two different human beings, right? So I think ultimately both of us desire that connection that comes through passionate lovemaking. And I'm trying to get it and keep asking for it and being vulnerable. and you're seeing
I'm trying to see what is your motive, and are you
you're
really trying to take from me, or are you actually trying to create and give this?
No, and that's exactly what I'm saying. So when I was trying to seek validation and to soothe myself through our intimate relationships, then it was wise of you in some way to not just jump in both feet. And when you did it out of obligation, and then it made it even worse because then I knew I took something from you afterwards and it felt awful. Mm-hmm. And it's this cycle that goes on and deeper because I'm like, oh my goodness, she doesn't want me. And so I drive and chase harder. And then that's like, he's trying to manipulate this out of me and get something from me. And it makes you run away or give in and causes this thing to spiral over and over again.
Fast, really fast. We spiral really fast.
Yeah. And so it's the ability to be able to go into that conversation
with a mutual goal.
Right. And the honesty to be honest with yourself. Like, I am so much more honest with myself. I think I see myself way more clearly than I did before. I can identify and understand that there's things that I still have weaknesses in, and I can understand and identify when I'm trying to manipulate a situation to get something, or when I have a true intent to share. And I've had to have some brutal moments of honesty with myself to be able to get there, right? So that when you would ask these questions as you did before, and I wasn't pretending like I was now, I can stop and say, what is it that I'm really feeling? And what is it that I don't really want? And what am I trying to get? And why am I acting this way? Curiosity will always win the day. If you're not thinking, I wonder what the heck is going on in my partner's mind right now, and why are they reacting this way? If you're not wondering that, you probably need a little more curiosity.
And if you need to take a break, take a break. But I think the thing is too, when a conversation has been heated or a topic has been heated and there's been intense emotions on either side and you bring it up, there is a feeling of unsafety. And so there probably will be some jabs, some attacks that you've got to accept as a sign that this person doesn't yet feel safe with me. And if you take that jab and then defend back, now you've lost the whole conversation.
I think and I have to say, I think that's what you've become a great in, a professional in. I don't know what the best word is. They're like really proficient in, because I am really proficient in jabbing. Like I can strike with my tongue faster than a cobra snake. And you've become the little kitty cat over there that can dodge that cobra. Whoop.
I'm a
if you
cat
can't see me, I'm like dodging my microphone. You become really good at dodging it and then coming back with like, wait a minute, that means something. Where before you wouldn't jab back, you would withdraw.
I would withdraw and be hurt.
Yeah,
and
I'd find you in the closet crying.
Yes. And so there is, I guess I want to point this out because often there is, and it may rotate from person to person depending on the conversation, there is one going into that conversation that's probably going to have a little more regulation at the beginning than the other. And they may have to maintain that for a little while until safety is established.
Yeah, depending on the topic, right? We find ourselves on both sides of it.
Right,
now.
right.
Yeah.
I can jab at you too. Yeah. And you have taken those jabs and also been like, oh, okay, this means we're not yet safe here. And when you can create that feeling of safety by curiosity, openness, tell me more, not going into the defensive, right? There's another meaning alive here. I wonder what this meaning is. Now you're creating safety.
It's almost shocking when you first start doing it. Like you keep on like, well, you're trying to get something else from me.
And that's where I think like I do and I don't, right? Like being very clear. I do want to have this conversation with you. I don't want to win it. And that's how I've approached it before.
Yeah.
I do want to understand you. I haven't wanted that in the past.
And if you haven't dealt with your own emotions when you go into it, then those emotions are just going to come up and fire again, right? We talk about when you have these emotions and you push them down or you ignore them, that they just get louder and louder. So if you go into the conversation without having addressed and thought, what does this really mean to me? Why am I feeling this way? And like I said, usually we find ourselves more on solid ground that have worked through those emotions more.
Yeah.
And if you have, you can be the one that anchors that conversation.
Yeah.
And keeps pulling that person back and saying, no, what does it really mean to you? Like, I'm curious about this.
Right.
And I found that usually it's one or the other of us that's more anchored at the time and can do it. And then allowing the other one space to say, yeah, what, and being willing to say, yeah, what does it really mean for me? I need to think about this. I don't know. And there's been times I've even mentioned stories on this podcast before where the emotions are so overwhelming, I don't know where they're coming from. But the sign that they're overwhelming means something now, where it would just cause me to get more angry and probably escalate the conversation. Now they become red flags. Like there are some underlying emotions that I haven't dealt with that probably have nothing to do with the conversation we're having right now, or are very tangential. Gentle? I don't think they're gentle. Tangent.
Related?
Adjacent. There's probably things adjacent to this that are playing into it, but they're not addressed, and that's why I'm having these overwhelming emotional feelings, because there's something underlying that I haven't addressed.
For example, maybe as we're fighting about the frequency of intimacy, maybe one person always had to fight to feel like they mattered to their family, or they were openly told, unless you're producing this, you aren't worthy. Maybe if you're fighting about money, money was always scarce, or money was a sign of security. And so you're really fighting for security, not about money. And so there could be a lot of factors in your history and your experience that come up. And that's where you're addressing the meaning of that is really, 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 really important. And it takes openness with yourself to say, why am I having this strong of a reaction?
Yep.
Maybe it's an insecurity. Maybe it's an anxiety. Maybe it's a fear. Maybe it's an uncertainty. And when you can get really honest about that, that's when you start being able to collaborate. And I feel like the more honesty and vulnerability that's put out there, the more safety starts to be created and the less defensiveness. But at first I would expect defensiveness.
Yeah, this is going to be difficult. I think it's fair enough. We shared this example in a podcast before, but it's a perfect example. So I want to go back and share it again.
Yeah.
We had just put a new driveway into our house, and this process took longer than we thought it would take.
Like every project.
More than we thought it would take. Now,
every project.
I love it. It's the best thing we ever did. The driveway is amazing. Every time I park in it, I'm like, oh, thank you for doing this.
And it fixed drainage issues and all kinds of things.
It was the right thing to do, and it was exactly what we needed to do. But we were just finishing this process up, and we were driving to go see our youngest daughter perform in a winter guard competition. And we were on the freeway. And
it was raining.
And
hard,
I was driving.
And you were driving.
And Amy asked, hey, did you get the check to the contractor?
I think I asked you what was the ending amount, because there were still some things that were in
something around the payment.
Payment, right? That you were going to decide to either do this or not do this, and like add this curb or not or whatever. And what did you decide, and what was the final amount?
I can't remember exactly what it was asked, but what I do remember, and I will not forget, and I think that's really important to this conversation, is all of a sudden I had an overwhelming amount of emotions, like just overwhelming. And I was angry and I was upset, and I had no idea why. So in the past, I would have just bit Amy's head off. That's what I would have done. And she would not have seen it coming, and was like, where did that come from? But that emotion, that overwhelming emotion, was a red flag to me. And I was like, babe, I know you asked me a question, but right now I have an overwhelmingly amount of emotions, and I want to answer in a way that's not helpful for us. Can I please have a moment?
And I was like, absolutely, take as long as you want. Like, it's just a
she
simple,
probably was like, oh my gosh, this man finally grew up. It's just like, what is going on here? So I don't remember how much time we hadn't made it. It was maybe a 30-minute drive to go down here. So
I think it was like 15 or 20 minutes.
Maybe at the most. I don't even think it was that long. But I started taking notice of my emotions and started walking back and working through where is this coming from?
What does this mean?
Why does this mean? Why is this so emotional for me?
Because your instant gut was like attack.
Right.
And
like, just get out of here. I can't believe you're asking this question.
Yeah.
And what I realized after a while, after unwinding it, was, listen, I felt completely guilty, like I hadn't done my job well enough, and that we had paid way too much money to get this done, and that I had made decisions maybe that weren't worthwhile. I shouldn't have put the curb there. I shouldn't have made the driveway that much bigger. we didn't have the money to do it and it was going to be bad. And I had taken ownership of this, that I had done something terrible for the family and that I had put us in a bad situation. And that's what triggered me. So my mind was telling me, my protective, immature friend of mine was telling me, Amy's attacking you because you're not good enough. And
that was the meaning.
Yeah, that I was not good enough and I had not handled the situation in the right way. And so after thinking about this and walking it back, I finally was able to say, hey, babe, by the way, yes, the final amount was this. I sent a check. And the reason why I'm having these overwhelming emotions, and I told her why. And it was a completely different conversation that we would have had in the past, because I would have just ripped into her and pushed her away. And I don't know if we'd ever gotten to the core question or answer to the question.
Which really was fear that you had made some mistake.
Yep.
And really you hadn't. And I was fully in support. I really just wanted to know, was curious about the last final amount. But it helped me see the weight of what you'd carried in on those decisions. And it did allow me to thank you and show you respect and recognition, because those were meanings that were at play.
Right.
I care about the weight of these decisions that you have made.
And we didn't I didn't make the decision on my own. We talked about each
we
one
did.
of them.
We did.
When you're with a contractor, you never know. They're like, oh, well, it'll be a little more. And then it comes back and it's $5,000 more. You're like, well, that's a little. I would hate to see a lot. And so I think we talked about every single one of those. And the contractor was really good. I found this a lot of times, and this is kind of off topic, but you get good contractors to do good work. Oftentimes they're not very good business people, right? So it wasn't like they were giving me quotes on paper. And this is what it's going to be. Oh yeah, we can do that. That's going to be a little more. And so we'd made the decisions together. It wasn't like I was making all these decisions in a bubble by myself. But if you look at our past, that was just, money's always been something that we've argued about. Very different, right? I make money so we can spend it. And if we're making money and we're not spending it, then we're doing something wrong.
And I like to budget for security and safety.
Yep. Amy wants to feel safe. And so she needs to have that safety net under there and know that there's money put away for a rainy day. And so we've worked over and over and over the years. We've gone back and forth. She's been in charge of keeping the budget. I've been in charge of keeping the budget. We've argued. We've been mad. I've told her if she can't live on $30,000, she can't live on anything.
First married. That was our very first
probably been, besides sex, the number one topic of discontent in our marriage. And so all that baggage played into this emotion that I had. And it was a very, very different conversation than we'd ever had before.
Because you were able to be so radically honest, you were able to notice it, able to pause, say, oh, hold on, something's going on here. Let me figure it out. Come back in. Then I knew we were actually talking about fears and concerns and worries that you had. And that was a different conversation than what was the final amount. Right. That was a completely different conversation. And so I think what happens is so often we think we're talking about the content of the conversation, right? I was talking about the amount on the check. You were talking about, did you make worthy decisions? We think we're talking about frequency. No, we're talking about, do you love me? Do you care about me? Do you respect
do you choose me?
My boundary to say no? Do you choose me? And so here we are. What happens is we start fighting about content, like, do we buy this? Do we not buy this? Do we spend this? Do we not? Do we have sex? Do we not? And when really what's happening below that, the meanings, that's where you want to go. You want to go to what does this actually mean to each person? And what is each person fighting for or feeling like is missing? That's where you can start to collaborate and address things.
Yep. So ask me again and we'll play this one for real. Let's go.
Oh, let's redo the conversation?
Let's redo it.
Okay. From the beginning or just where we left off?
Somewhere in between.
Okay. So I recognize that I have hurt you and you feel rejected, and I apologize for that. And I am truly sorry. I don't yet know how to create a space where I feel safe to enter. I want to be close to you, and I don't know how to do that yet.
Yeah, babe, I really appreciate you saying that, because I do find myself getting to a place where I feel so anxious around being chosen. And I know that when we have really connective sex, when we really are connected together, it feels so amazing. And it feels like you choose me, and it feels like we're connected. And that's really what I'm desiring. And so as I put this out here, I've realized that I am trying to grasp at these things to soothe my own anxieties and to make myself feel better instead of going at it with the intent of us connecting and becoming better. And so I do realize my asks have been a little needy, and I really want to change that more. I want to be able to come to you and ask for that connection that's good for both of us instead of it just being something to soothe my own anxieties.
I would really love that.
How do you think I could maybe ask in a different way that would help?
That's a great question. I think if you were clear on your motive, sometimes I don't know if you're trying to take from me to soothe your anxiety or if it's actually me you're choosing and wanting. And when I feel that you just want me to soothe, I don't want that.
Yeah, I don't want it either. And sometimes I'm just being really honest with you.
Yeah.
When I go to ask, I don't sometimes know either.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so maybe if we can be honest with the other, if you're feeling that I'm asking out of want to take, that you can kindly ask me if we can talk about my intentions and we can work through them, because I think it's going to take both of us working through them to understand if my intentions really are trying to take something from you or if my intentions are really trying to connect with you.
Yeah.
And so I would appreciate that grace for me.
Okay. And I think for me, what helps me to connect is just kind of knowing where your heart and mind are at and having a few moments to just hold each other or be in each other's presence, like allowing my brain to switch from all of the tasks and to-dos and like having a transition, because it's kind of hard for me to transition.
Yeah, I know. I come prepared.
Yeah.
All you got to do is show up naked.
But sometimes just getting even to that point, remembering I have a body and that I desire this, I feel like I don't even remember that. And so it takes some time to even get to that place of remembering, because I really do want to have a relationship with you and I do want intimacy and I want to love you and I want to feel loved.
And I appreciate that. I know in the past that hasn't been something that you've been able to articulate or even know or want. And so I know it's true now. And that really helps me be able to calm my anxiety around whether I'm being chosen or not, to know that if I give you the space and time that you'll have the opportunity to choose me or not. And I know I can't control that, but I really appreciate that you've decided to choose me, and it makes me really love and care for you. So I appreciate that.
I do want to choose you, and I want to be better at seeing if there's more room, more maybes. I think I'm quick to say no, and I haven't yet explored more why would I say yes, or is there some room to try? And even if things don't pan out as we expected, can we both be okay?
So what are you doing tonight? So listen, I know this might sound like totally hokey schmokey pokey dokey, like, yeah, whatever.
That
this
was
is just
a good
fake,
word. Hokey schmokey pokey dokey.
Even just talking about it, I felt real around this conversation because we've had it in the past, and it really has changed our ability to have a conversation. And so if you're listening and saying you guys are full of it, sure, you can say that. But I think in reality that our conversations have changed.
They have drastically changed.
I know my motive has changed. I do not keep score anymore. I'm not going into it to win. I'm going in to have curiosity, to understand. And it's changed everything. It's changed our ability to work through issues that would take days, months, weeks to overcome. And we would be so separate. I mean, makeup sex is really awesome, but it would be a long time before we got to that. So
far between.
Yeah. And so I guess I'm saying this is that if I would have listened to myself say this a few years ago, I probably would have gone, yeah, that's silly. Or is that really true? Or can it really happen that way? Or they're just making it up and playing along. But I'm trying to tell you that for real, for us, it has changed our lives in a way that we can't even count and understand. It's changed our perspective, and it's changed our marriage. Mm-hmm. And it's really at the core of everything that we have done. all the hard work we put in to become a better couple has really come down to the ability to communicate like this.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times when I still want to pinch myself because I'm waiting for that reaction to come. I'm waiting to find Amy crying in the closet. It's been a long time. Like I need to get more aggressive. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I'm waiting for the next shoe to fall because it was such a common theme. Like it was such a pattern.
We just used to hit the same wall over and over and over and like, what are we doing wrong?
And it didn't happen overnight. So I'm not trying to say that you're going to go and we're not any better than you. I promise we still mess it up a lot and we're nothing special here. We've just been very, very blessed to find some very, very good people that taught us some really important things. And we both really desired to change our marriage. And I'll be honest with you, the best thing that ever happened in my life was I sent Amy to life school to become a coach and started to understand our emotions and the way we deal with them. And it's the best money we've ever spent, every penny, even if we never had a coaching session that made us a penny. It was every penny well spent because it changed our life. So it took a lot of work. It did. It
did. And I think, we started this talking about meanings, talking about respect. So I just want to circle back and say, when you respect a spouse, you are assuming good intent, even if their behavior isn't quite there yet. You are assuming that there are meanings and things that you don't yet understand, and that by getting more understanding, more honesty, more truth on the table, out in the open, that there will be more repair, there will be more collaboration. And sometimes you have to remind yourself about that a lot in a conversation, because we're human and we get hurt and we have defense mechanisms and we can jab and we can strike, we can withdraw. And so just you keep practicing, keep coming back, keep assuming that you can, that there is a way through.
Now listen here. If you didn't listen to me earlier before and pause this podcast and go sign up for our workshop, do it now. We're about to wrap up here, or you can wait till we wrap up and go do it. But we would really, 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 really love you to join us. We feel like we have put together a workshop that will give you some real tools to be able to accomplish what you want to accomplish and become closer as a couple. And that's really what we love to do. So go sign up for that. We would love to see you all on our website. Oh, by the way, if you sign up for that workshop, you get a free coaching session, right?
Yeah, you get a free coaching session.
Automatically. So that is an amazing thing. We would love to do it. If you want to talk to us before then, go join us.
Email us, message us. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us at our email, Amy at Langford Life Coaching or Greg at Langford Life Coaching. Ask us all your questions.
Yep, we'd love to hear them.
We want to hear about, too, if you make it through an argument that you haven't made it through before, a conflict that has been recurring, tell us about it.
Yeah, we'd love to hear some success stories, and maybe some epic failures would be fun, too.
Yeah.
So
we've had those.
We have plenty we can share with you. We can sit down and sympathize with you because we've had plenty of failures. So we love you. Grateful for this opportunity to be part of your lives. Please keep listening, like, and subscribe to the podcast. That helps us. And until next time,
keep undressing your intimacy.
Bye-bye.